This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. After wildfires have forced thousands from their homes, Manitoba's messaging for people to reconsider non-essential travel is getting mixed reviews. Some evacuees are having trouble finding places to stay, but others say the advice is having unintended consequences. CBC's Josh Crabb reports.
It's been nearly 2 weeks since wildfire forced Stacey Muskego from her home in Pimicikamat Cree Nation. Since then, she's spent time with 6 of her teenage and adult children in a school gymnasium, a hotel hallway, and is now sharing 2 hotel rooms with 8 others.
Our living situation is not what anybody wants to look forward to.
Manitoba remains under a state of emergency, and the provincial government has asked people to reconsider non-essential travel to free up hotel rooms for evacuees. Pimicikamat Cree Nation councillor Vivian Scott says they should go a step further.
The province needs to say, shut down all your events and let us have those hotels until we can go back. We don't even know when we can go home.
Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge General Manager Pitt Turen understands the need to free up accommodations.
We've had several groups defer their trip, postpone them into summer months.
The fly-in fishing operation in eastern Manitoba wouldn't host evacuees given its location, but remains open for business. Losing bookings now means losing revenue during their busiest time of year. Some hotels told CBC News they haven't had any cancellations following the province's request for people to reconsider non-essential travel. Manitoba Hotel Association President and CEO Michael Jew says the industry is doing its best to house evacuees, but the association is seeking further clarity from the government.
This is a really unprecedented situation. We have over 21,000 evacuees in the province right now.
Manitoba's emergency management minister says people should decide for themselves and evaluate what is essential travel. Lisa Naylor says 68 buildings in 14 different communities are being used to house evacuees.
And it is only the beginning of fire season. We don't know what's going to happen, and we really need to be prepared for the weeks ahead.
Muskego knows this is a difficult time for everyone.
I feel so homeless. I got nowhere to go. But I'm very thankful that I got a place to stay.
She is grateful for those who have delayed trips to make more room for the thousands who've been displaced. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Manitoba's ongoing state of emergency means people can't go into the backcountry without a permit. But there are a few who are allowed in the area, like hunting outfitters. And for some, that's become a point of contention. CBC's Gavin Axelrod has more.
Right now in Manitoba, trails and backcountry water routes in all provincial parks are closed. The only way in is with a permit, a point of frustration for Barb Robson.
If you're not going to let us in, point blank, if there's no backcountry travel, take the permits away.
Some permits are going to outfitters, but Robson feels it's too dangerous for hunters to be in the backcountry because guns and ATVs can cause fire risks. Manitoba's environment minister understands the concerns. Mike Moyes also says outfitters need the backcountry to make a living.
They have more experience than the average Manitoban. They've been dealing with wildfires for a number of years and have that experience to know how to mitigate a lot of those risks.
Moyes says permits are given out on a case-by-case basis and can have restrictions. Some of those restrictions include hunters only being able to go out in the bush at certain times or not being able to use ATVs. And if ATVs are being used, they have to be kept clean and have a fire extinguisher handy. There are some parts of the province permits won't be issued for at all. The organization representing outfitters says it's important to be flexible.
These folks are given a very, very short window of time to make their season go and make a living. And so the ones that are allowed to do so by permit are doing so with restrictions in place.
Robson did get some good news. Big Whiteshell Lake will reopen to cottagers like her on Wednesday. Still, she's not thrilled about backcountry travel restrictions.
Hikers and that can't go in the backcountry, and they're not taking ATVs in there and guns. I don't think outfitters should be allowed back there to hunt.
Although there was some good news for Whiteshell Provincial Park users, Manitobans should check the provincial website for updates on other parks. Gavin Axelrod, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Now, as you just heard, some areas of the White Shell will reopen tomorrow. As of 8 Wednesday morning, Crow Duck and Big White Shell Lakes will reopen for residents, cottagers and businesses. Later in the day, people can once again go to Florence and Nora Lakes. The province says the fire in the Ontario Wilderness area continues to burn, but crews are holding the line, allowing some people to re-enter. Anyone returning to these areas should be prepared to evacuate again if those conditions change. The Ontario Wilderness Zone remains closed, including the popular Ontario Trail and the Caddy Lake tunnels. A reminder, a full fire ban remains in place. So as thousands remain out of their homes due to wildfires, being alone in a big or unfamiliar city can feel lonely. It's one reason some people from Flin Flon are looking to stay connected to their community, even while hundreds of kilometers away here in Winnipeg. CBC's Zubina Ahmed is at Assiniboine Park tonight, where some evacuees are. Zubina, what's going on there?
I'm here at Assiniboine Park, where wildfire evacuees from Flin Flon have got together for a barbecue. We can see more than 30 families, adults, seniors, kids all around, and many more are expected to come. According to the organizer, Louis Nickel, they're expecting to feed almost 1,000 people today. He says that get-togethers like this will be therapeutic for the evacuees. It will help them socialize, share their stories, and support each other.
So it's for all the evacuees and anyone they want to bring with them. It's basically just to get the community together and so they can socialize and have a bite to eat and have fun.
It seems like a really nice event for evacuees to just get together and let off a little bit of steam. So, Zubina, what are evacuees telling you about how they've been feeling the last few weeks?
So we spoke to some evacuees who said that events like this are helping them to reconnect with the community and keep their mind off all the stress and worries which they have been going through the last couple of weeks. While some of them are not really happy with the arrangements here, people are saying that they're staying in crowded conditions, some almost living like 6 people in one room. They also spoke about the lack of food and supports, so people seem frustrated. While some say that they're keeping a close eye on the situation back home, like Bob Lyons is an evacuee who's been monitoring his home through his security camera here.
These events really do, take some of the tension, because people like ourselves, we know we have a house only because we have monitoring systems. We have a cottage, we don't know. And there's a lot of people that have actually know that they've lost, all of their possessions perhaps. And
evacuations can be traumatic and stressful, and organizers here have also brought in some supports. There is the stall of the Westman Mental Wellness setup, where people can go and speak to professionals and get some sort of mental health support. Brittany.
All right, thank you, Zubina. Some difficult times. CBC's Zubina Ahmed tonight. Now, meantime, there's progress being made on the wildfire that has been threatening that community. Mayor George Fontaine says today has been more of a monitoring day than a fighting day for wildfire crews in Flin Flon. He says they haven't seen those wild flames and flare-ups like they were dealing with in days past. Fontaine says so far no structures have been lost within the community of Flin Flon. And as for when people can return, he says that will take some time.
Well, return times won't be established for at least a week, from my understanding. And then whenever that happens, we'll be having experts tell us how to phase our way back in, grocery-wise, healthcare-wise, all that sort of thing, before the general public's in. So it gives you an idea. You can work your timelines around that.
Fontaine also added that there is food available for the firefighters, which he says previously was an issue. Let's bring in weather specialist Riley Laychuk. And Riley, everybody keeping an eye on the weather, whether it's the wind, whether it's possible rain. Lots of people anxious to get home whenever possible.
Yeah, that's right, Brittany. A few things working in their favor today. First off, cooler temperatures once again for most of northern Manitoba. We'll talk temperatures a little later on. A little bit of rain also moving through, some scattered showers. You can see some of that reflected on the satellite imagery. We don't have radar imagery this far north in the province. So yes, a little bit of rain again today as expected. expected into parts of northern Manitoba, but also we've seen winds start to lighten up as we've gotten throughout the day once again today, and that will be the case as we get into tomorrow. Some lighter winds helping the situation in northern Manitoba. The rest of us, a mix of sun and clouds throughout the afternoon hours today. A few showers into Nopaming Provincial Park, into the White Shell once again as well. The good news in this is no lightning out of some of this. I know that there was that risk of maybe a few thunder showers as we've gotten throughout the afternoon here. Air quality statements have also, for the most part, come to an end. The only statement we have left in place, this one here near Flin Flon and Lynn Lake in the immediate area where that wildfire is burning. And temperatures in northern Manitoba remain cooler than seasonal as we get through the next 5 days. And you'll notice we noticed some showers into early Wednesday and once again into the weekend, Brittany.
All right. Thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
Some nurses new to Manitoba's healthcare system say they're being scrutinized rather than supported. The allegation comes as nurses who got jobs under relaxed labor mobility rules have been thrust into the spotlight. The regulator says some of these nurses are struggling with basic tasks and it's putting patient safety at risk. CBC's Ian Fraze has that story.
A nursing association is asking if Manitoba is setting up internationally educated nurses to fail. One advocate says nurses of African descent are being reported for incompetence, often prematurely and sometimes in bad faith.
There are nurses with 2 postgraduate degrees. There are nurses with degrees that they've gotten from foreign countries that are being scrutinized, criticized, questioned on validity, and then when investigated, all those claims are unsubstantiated.
Ovia Onigbibama was hearing from these nurses before the College of Registered Nurses spoke out last week saying some nurses lack basic skills. The province has welcomed hundreds of new nurses in recent years because labor mobility rules have relaxed. A nurse living in Manitoba can get registered in another province where it might be easier to get a license and then work in Manitoba automatically. The regulator says there's been a spike in complaints about the competence of these international and domestically trained nurses. And according to one advocate, nurses trained abroad are being unfairly scrutinized, some of whom just need better training on the job.
They already have a hard time integrating into our Canadian system. And the way how that's being framed by our Manitoba licensure doesn't add to seeing them as valuable, safe.
The regulator says it's just pointing out a flaw. Most internationally trained nurses practice without issue.
What we were intending to focus on last week is a much smaller cohort of individuals.
The regulator is asking the province to make previous Canadian work experience mandatory again for these nurses. But the government says that would go against internal trade laws. Ian Fraze, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A Brandon High School was in lockdown this afternoon after a teenage boy was attacked with a sword. It happened around 1 o'clock at Neelan High School. Police say they learned a teenage boy was in the school with a sword. Officers found the victim, a 15-year-old who was a student at the school with, quote, significant stab wounds. He was taken to hospital in serious condition and later upgraded to stable. Police say a 16-year-old was arrested after officers had to subdue him with a taser. The Brandon School Division says the suspect was an intruder in the building. Police are expected to give more details about the incident tomorrow morning. A man was shot in downtown Winnipeg last night. Police say officers responded to the scene at 6:20 in the evening. The man was transported to hospital in unstable condition. He was later upgraded. Police, however, say the man was not cooperative and refused further assistance. No arrests have been made. Well, Winnipeg is 1 year away from starting to replace water meters in most city homes. As CBC's Bartley Kivas reports, the new ones will read themselves.
Most of the water meters in Winnipeg are old and obsolete. Winnipeg's Water and Waste Department says these old meters underestimate actual water usage by about 5%. Since newer homes get more accurate meters, everyone with an old meter is getting a break on their water bills.
As meters age, they degrade and they start underreporting. So right now we have kind of an equity thing. Anybody who gets a new meter is kind of subsidizing a person who gets an old meter, and it is good practice to try to replace these meters every 20 years.
Winnipeg hasn't even hit that target. It plans to begin replacing all the old meters next year. So this analog water meter is one of 221,000 the city plans to replace beginning in 2026. It'll take 5 years and $135 million to replace them all, but this will pay for itself in 11 years. More accurate meters means more revenue for the city. The new meters can also determine precisely how much water any home is using at any given time. The city might share this data with homeowners to help them make decisions.
Like, how much does it cost to maintain my vegetable garden? Or how much does it cost on Sunday when I do all the laundry? You'll be able to actually quantify some of these things if we go to the level of granularity that the technology could potentially provide.
The new meters will also read themselves. They'll send encrypted water usage data to the city using radio waves. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
We're getting a first look at what a newly revamped Pantages Theatre will look like with its planned renovations. The design plan has been released by the Performing Arts Consortium and the Winnipeg Symphony. The hall was originally built in 1914 but closed in 2018 and purchased by the consortium in August 2022. The WSO plans to rehearse and perform in the new 1,100-seat venue. It will also rent out the space to other groups. The project could cost $60 million, and the consortium is hoping to get half of that from governments. Riley back in now, and it's a pretty nice day for that picnic that was happening in Assiniboine Park for all of those evacuees from Flin Flon. So many people keeping an eye on the weather. You have a very busy job because they all want to hear, is there more rain on the way?
You know what? We do have minimal amounts of rain coming in the next week or so to parts of northern Manitoba. Not the good soaking that I think everybody's hoping for, but certainly a little bit here and there. But as I said earlier, what will help is the cooler temperatures and the lightning winds in parts of the north. So let's start with the potential for rain over the next 5 days. I showed this a couple of days ago, and I'll remind you that this is one forecast model kind of depicting what is a best case scenario or sort of the maximums over the next 5 days here. So as you can see, parts of northern Manitoba, the maximums in that 12 to 25 millimeter range. I think by the time this current system pushes through, we're looking into that 10 millimeter range, some pockets of locally higher accumulation, as you can see depicted on Futurecast here as we get through the rest of the evening. Into the day on Wednesday, still a few more showers yet to come, sort of straggling behind out of some of this cloud cover as that low pressure center departs down into northwestern Ontario and into Minnesota. As for the rest of Wednesday, a mix of sun and clouds really across the province tomorrow. Although anytime you see some of this cloud cover here, there is the potential of seeing a few sprinkles out of some of that. Futurecast trying to depict some of that into early Thursday morning, even into parts of the inner lake. So just keep that in mind that you could see maybe a couple of sprinkles here and there. Really, anytime you see some of this cloud cover hanging around over the next couple of days, that really doesn't amount to anything really, but just be aware that that threat is there of a possible little downpour here and there. This particular forecast model putting another 17 millimeters in Flin Flon. That's taking into account the potential maybe for some thunder showers and some of that. Obviously, we don't need the lightning, but other than that, looking at a general, I think 5 to 10 millimeters in that northwestern part of the province. In behind this low, as it departs through the overnight hours into Wednesday, a real drop in winds, even down to winds sustained at about 10 gusting 20 through the day Wednesday by the time we get into the day on Thursday. The other piece I was mentioning earlier was the temperatures. So you can sort of see where the jet stream arcs here through Manitoba and Saskatchewan. On the north side of that, much cooler air that's even 10, 15 degrees for daytime highs as we get through the rest of the work week and into the weekend even. So that will help crews kind of get a handle on things with some cooler temperatures and those temperatures that aren't scorching hot like we saw earlier into the end of May with those 29, 30 plus degree temperatures, even into Friday, looking at temperatures close to 20 degrees into parts of northern Manitoba. For southern Manitoba, temperature is fairly seasonal for the next few days. 21 degrees for Winnipeg, maybe a bit hazy tomorrow. 23s for Thursday and Friday, Brittany, and risk of some thunderstorms late in the day on Saturday. Otherwise, temperatures staying right around 24 degrees.
All right. Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
It's a bombshell report from Canada's Auditor General. Karen Hogan says the cost of the incoming fleet of stealth fighters has exploded by nearly 50%. The report comes a day after the new Liberal government promised to expand military spending. Rafi Boudjikanian has the details.
Just as Ottawa insists it is time to shore up this country's ability for self-defense, a scathing report about what it has been unable to guard against.
We found that estimated costs of the Future Fighter Capability Project have significantly increased.
The government announced a deal to purchase 88 F-35 fighter jets nearly 3 years ago, eyeing a little more than a decade for full delivery and operation. They were supposed to cost $19 billion. The Auditor General thinks that might increase to $27.7 billion, blaming in part rising inflation and a heightened global demand for munitions, but also saying the Defense Department used outdated costing estimates.
There was more recent information available about the costs of the actual fighter jets that could have been used and factored into that. And the slowness of putting plans into action have resulted in the need for interim measures.
For one, Canada's 2 aging fighter bases in Bagotville, Quebec and Cold Lake, Alberta both need to be renovated so they can house the new planes at all. The F-35s also require training engineering staff and especially pilots.
Are you concerned that the F-35s are overpriced and are not being delivered on time?
It's raised questions on whether the soaring costs mean these planes will even all be fit to fly by 2033.
Not only was Canada deeply affected by the pandemic and the United States, but every participating NATO partner has had to contend with the forces that the pandemic played on the entire acquisition and development.
But one industry observer says problems with the jets far predate COVID, going back to designers' plans at Lockheed Martin.
They tried to pack in too many different capabilities, too many new technologies, many of which were not fully developed before their design was incorporated into the overall program.
Still waiting in the wings, an entirely different review of the F-35 program commissioned by the Defense Department. The government saying it's not ruling out leaving this contract, but it's committed to receive the first of its planes next year. Rafi Boudjikanian, CBC News, Ottawa.
Meantime, the Liberal government's new border bill aims to give law enforcement sweeping new powers. But civil liberties groups say it also has the potential to take away some rights from Canadians. Marina von Stackelberg has the details.
Civil liberties and privacy advocates say Canada's new Strong Borders Act could actually remove the barriers that protect your private information.
It's just a blank check of these new powers.
Bill C-2 would expand law enforcement's authority to open and inspect your mail and make it easier for police to search your computer or device if they deem it urgent.
This legislation is about your personal data and personal information. And that data and information can reveal a trove of background about our lives.
Police would also have the power to force telecoms and digital platforms to hand over details of your online use. That includes your smartphone and internet, email and messaging apps. Details like when you use them and where you were, without a warrant.
This really does invite potential fishing expeditions.
This expert in privacy law says police could demand that information if they suspect you violated any federal law, not just the criminal code.
This really puts our privacy at risk. And you don't have to take my word for it. The Supreme Court of Canada has repeatedly examined exactly these issues and has articulated unequivocally that Canadians have a reasonable expectation of privacy. And in effect, we have the government saying, well, no, you don't.
But child protection advocates say police need easier and faster access to this information. This center receives tips of online exploitation of children. Police often need to link a computer's IP address to a suspect. The process of requesting that data can take months. By then, that information may have already disappeared.
There are pieces of information that are only in the possession of companies that provide internet services to subscribers.
The Association of Chiefs of Police says Canada lags behind its allies. So this new legislation simply modernizes this country's laws so police can keep up with the new technology criminals use. Marina von Stackelberg, CBC News, Ottawa.
U.S. President Donald Trump is defending his decision to send the National Guard and Marines to Los Angeles, where people are protesting federal immigration raids. Trump says the city would be, quote, burning to the ground if he hadn't made that move. But California state and LA officials say the deployment is unjustified. Sasha Petrusik has more.
California's governor has filed an emergency motion asking a federal judge to block National Guard members and Marines from getting involved in immigration raids. President Donald Trump ordered 4,700 of the troops to move into California to protect ICE agents going after what he calls illegal immigrants. About half of these troops are supposed to take positions around 2 federal buildings in downtown Los Angeles. All of this against the wishes of Governor Gavin Newsom.
This theatrical display of toughness by a president of the United States who's unhinged and has now crossed a red line in this country.
The streets of LA have been relatively quiet for the past couple of days after a weekend of sporadic rioting. There have been protests against the immigration raids and some confrontations between demonstrators and police. But the mayor says it's nothing officers can't handle by themselves. In fact, Trump took credit for that calm today and at the same time painted a picture of chaos that might justify further federal intervention.
If there's an insurrection, I would certainly invoke it. We'll see. But I can tell you last night was terrible. The night before that was terrible.
But while Trump is pushing the boundaries of presidential and federal powers, some serious issues are being raised by Congress. What powers will those troops have? Normally, U.S. law doesn't allow them to get involved in civilian policing. And where will the money come from? $134 million worth. All of that was part of a heated exchange at a congressional committee today.
The chaos is the bait, and the switch is a constitutional crisis and power grab. Trump created this political distraction to divide us and keep our focus away from his policies.
You asked about the situation in Los Angeles, and we believe ICE agents should be allowed to be safe in doing their operations, and we have deployed National Guard and the Marines to protect them in the execution of their duties.
For Trump, the heavy emphasis on the military power he commands continues with a speech to troops at Fort Bragg in North Carolina this afternoon and a massive military parade that's set to shut down a large part of Washington, D.C. this weekend. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Washington.
At least 9 people are dead and 12 others wounded in Austria after a shooting at a secondary school. Police say the shooter who took his own life was a former student. They're still looking into the motive. 6 of the victims were female, 3 male. There are no other details yet available, but police say most of the victims were students. Police say the 21-year-old gunman was acting alone when he entered the school. Canada has joined the UK and other allies to impose sanctions on 2 members of Israel's coalition government. The Canadian Foreign Minister says the 2 are promoting what she calls extremist settler violence. Evan Dyer has more on that story.
When we say something, we mean it, and that is why we're acting today.
It's been nearly 3 weeks since Britain, Canada and France warned Israel that their patience had come to an end over the starving of civilians in Gaza and settlement expansion and settler violence in the Israeli-occupied West Bank. Since then, Israel announced 22 new settlements, the biggest expansion in many years.
As the Prime Minister said on May 19th in the joint statement,
If the ongoing expansion of settlements in the West Bank did not stop, concrete actions would be taken.
And so Canada has, for the first time, imposed travel and financial sanctions on 2 Israeli cabinet ministers, Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich and National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, as have Britain, Australia, New Zealand and Norway. Both men are themselves West Bank settlers. Both also have long histories of radicalism. Ben-Gvir has been convicted of inciting racism and providing support to a terrorist organization. Smotrich was once held by Israeli security police on suspicion of plotting settler terror attacks.
Today, we are making a decision also to stand against those who encourage abuses of human rights, also to stand against those who encourage violence against Palestinian people.
Lamy said there have been nearly 2,000 settler attacks on Palestinians in the past year.
It is outrageous that elected representatives and members of the government are subjected to this kind of measures.
While the Israeli government condemned the move, Palestinian Canadians say it doesn't go far enough.
You have to understand that these 2 individuals don't exist in a vacuum. They are part of an Israeli government that is deeply racist.
Although it's the first time Canada has sanctioned Israeli government ministers, the sanctions are individual. They don't apply to the whole government or country. Palestinians say they'd like to see Canada go further and sanction the whole state of Israel, as a previous Canadian government once did apartheid South Africa. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
Crews continue to battle fires raging in northern Manitoba and Ontario. The military has been deployed to help people leave Sandy Lake First Nation, almost 600 kilometers northwest of Thunder Bay. One of the hardest things for many evacuees is being forced to leave their beloved pets behind. Many are unable to take them on the buses and planes that are helping get them out of danger. So some Good Samaritans have volunteered to check in and feed the animals. Lisa Shing has more.
The pets in Sandy Lake First Nation are hungry. Hundreds are now on their own ever since wildfires quickly closed in on the remote fly-in community on the Ontario-Manitoba border. Their owners had to evacuate, leaving them behind.
We were told to leave bowls of water and bowls of food, a lot.
Destiny Ray, now in the Greater Toronto area, is missing her cat Pearl, a beloved family member for the last 5 years.
I'm very concerned. It's scary. It's scary to know that we're not there.
But some comfort. This group is connecting pet owners with volunteers who haven't yet flown out to make sure the dogs, cats, rabbits are okay.
There's a few bags, lots of more treats.
Sean Linklater has spent the last couple of days checking in, sharing his own dog's food.
They're just important as us. They got feelings. They're all scared too. And small little animals, they need to be cared to while all their owners are gone.
I was sitting here, kind of feeling pretty helpless.
The online group was created by Virginia Head, who grew up in Sandy Lake.
There are so many people that have pets and have left behind, and they are so broken over that, and they're so worried. So I'm just trying to do my part and, trying to ease their worry on top of, being displaced.
Especially since there's no sign the residents can go back home anytime soon. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
Riley is back in now. And Riley, for those of our viewers who might be, can stay up late, unlike me, I go to bed at 10.
Or you're up very, very early.
10 o'clock, or I'm up very, very early. So if you can stay up later, you get up even earlier, you are in for a treat.
Yes. Our June full moon on full display, although a little bit more unique than usual this time around. The strawberry moon is what it's called in June. And this one, by the way, will be the lowest full moon on the horizon that we'll see until 2043. That just has to do with the orbit of the moon around Earth and just the positioning of where it is in relation to gravity and whole bunch of science in outer
technical.
space. So it is very technical. So, by the way, if you want to see that, it peaks at 1:43 in the morning. And again, you're going to have to look on the horizon because it's going to appear lower and dimmer than usually we see with a full moon. So keep that in mind if you happen to be up late or you're getting up really, really early, or maybe you're just up all night, something like that. All right, your dog walking forecast. Jonathan looks like he really likes enjoying a walk. Maybe in the moonlight or maybe out by the lake. Thank you, Leslie, for sending this picture, and you can send your pictures to talkback@cbc.ca anytime. Looking at 12 degrees first thing in the morning. Another pretty seasonal day across southern Manitoba, although maybe a little bit of haze as we get through the day once again tomorrow, as we see winds fairly light tomorrow out of the northeast, 10 gusting to 20. Really not pushing any of that smoke or haze out of southern Manitoba, but we will start to see that diffusing a little bit as we get into Thursday, potentially even into Friday as well. Just depends on the winds and a little bit unpredictable at this point. Temperatures 21 degrees in Winnipeg. We actually reached 24.7 this afternoon in Winnipeg. Let's round that one up to 25. 23 in Brandon, 24 in Melita at the moment. And there's some of that cooler air into northern Manitoba. You can kind of see where the jet stream cuts across central Manitoba here with some of that cooler air in the north. 2 degrees in Churchill, 5 degrees in Gillam at the moment. Those cool temperatures and assist to the firefighters who are working up in northwestern and north central parts of the province. Overnight temperatures look like this, 6s and 7s through West Mountain. Mostly clear skies, so should be pretty good viewing for that moon overnight tonight. Maybe a few clouds hanging around and the potential for a couple of stray showers across the southern Interlake into eastern Manitoba through the night tonight. 7 in Pinawa, 9s for both Kenora and Dryden. Into northern Manitoba, looking at temperatures pretty cool, 3 degrees in Thompson, 1 in Gillam. Yes, that's the potential for maybe a few flurries overnight. A slight chance of that into Gillam, into Shamattawa along the Hudson Bay coast as we get into the morning hours tomorrow. And there's a bit more rain yet to come as we get through Wednesday for northwestern Manitoba. We won't say no to some of that. 16 through the Pas, OCN, maybe some heavier pockets of showers as we get through the afternoon once again. Mainly sunny skies in the south. Temperatures very seasonal for this time of the year. 22s, 23s into Westman, 18 in Gimli, and Brittany, we're looking at 19s and 21s into northwestern Ontario.
Thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
Thousands of Manitobans have been forced from their homes as wildfires rage around the province. They're being placed in bigger centres like Thompson, Winnipeg, and even Niagara Falls. Now, for many, this might be the first time they've ever left their home communities. Sergeant Chris Kohelmi is with the RCMP's Community and Indigenous Policing Services Unit and joins me now. Thanks for being here, Sergeant.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for the invite.
Sergeant, so first off, safety, of course, becomes a big concern for many, especially when we talk about youth and more vulnerable people. So what have you seen happening during this time during the wildfires?
Well, what we are facing is a lot of people being evacuated out of northern communities. Many of these communities are isolated and lack a lot of resources. When people are evacuated into a larger center, such as Winnipeg, it's what was essentially a culture shock. So we've partnered with the Winnipeg Police and different partner agencies to develop a wildfire safety pamphlet. This pamphlet is designed to give evacuees phone numbers, different safety tips, as well as contacts within the city of Winnipeg and larger centers to help them.
Really important for people to have some of that information at their fingertips. So how often do we see people really being taken advantage of during times of crisis?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, people who are not used to being in larger centers, it's essentially a culture shock. I know some of my colleagues in the WPS have spoken that, a human trafficking incident only takes one conversation. So we're reminding a lot of the evacuees just to maintain contact with people they're familiar with, community leaders, and those are the Red Cross in evacuation centers.
So there's been some pamphlets that have been handed out. So what kind of things do people need to be looking out for? How do you really know if someone is helping or if they're trying to take advantage?
The biggest thing is your local knowledge with your community leaders. A lot of the evacuation centers have what's called a First Nation safety officer. A lot of them are being used as security guards within the evacuation centers. Of course, local counselors who are also in evacuation centers. They are the local knowledge from their previous communities that can assist evacuees.
I know even one of the things I saw RCMP put out on social media was just things that might look like somebody's being nice is actually an instance of grooming. Can you expand on some of those a little bit?
That's correct, yes. A lot of our more vulnerable community members, such as youth or the elderly, they're not as aware of their surroundings as people who are in their prime age. Criminality generally preys on these type of groups, and they're very easily influenced. Hence why we developed our safety pamphlet, just to assist with these matters. Just easy contact numbers, tips to avoid dangerous situations, and just better safety tips.
And I guess some of these can look as simple as somebody offering you something for free, trying to gain that contact with you and start to build rapport. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes. It's essentially like alluring ability to be able to give something to you to gain that trust in them. And once you're having that trust established, you're hooked then. So our aim is just to get that knowledge out and just the safety awareness to avoid these situations.
So really, what can people do to protect themselves, protect their loved ones? Is it mean going out in groups? Does it mean never going out by yourself? What are some of those tips?
Well, those are good points. Always remain with family members. Of course, if you're with the elderly, maintain good ties with your immediate family. Of course, as well, contact with community leaders, as well as different security officers, if you're in different centers with the First Nations safety officers. Of course, Winnipeg Police is conducting walkthroughs of some of the evacuation sites. You can always get in touch with the RCMP as well if you are from the more northern communities.
Sergeant, do you know how many reports that you guys may have had of any of these instances so far during these wildfires?
I can't speak for the city of Winnipeg, but I know a lot of our membership in Thompson is maintaining good communication with the evacuees. I don't have concrete numbers at this time, though.
All right, Sergeant, thank you so much for your time. We want to make sure everyone stays safe.
Very good. Thank you for your time.
All right, we're in the season where biking to work's popular, of course, with Bike to Work Day. A lot of folks have been asking me about the weather for biking to work in our office even. So here you go. If you're biking to work on Wednesday, you get 6 green bikes, maybe a little bit hazy at times. Otherwise, tomorrow's looking pretty pleasant, I think. Pretty seasonal for this time of the year. 21 degrees, actually a little below. Thursday, maybe a bit of cloud cover. Into Friday, mix of sun and clouds. Temperatures around 23 degrees. Again, very nice for spring weather as we head into the weekend. Risk of a very late evening storm into Saturday at 24 degrees. Warming up slightly on Sunday to 27, and then we are looking at maybe a few more showers coming our way as we get Monday into Tuesday of next week. Well, there are all kinds of city walking tours that people can go on, whether it's historical, architectural, culinary, something like that.
My favorite. But a pretty special kind was held in Montreal over the weekend. CBC's Kwabena Aduro has our daily lift.
Basically, a bunch of people sign up their cats. We pick a neighborhood where we have a lot of cat signups, and we go on a tour. We go on a walking tour of the neighborhood to see people's cats, either outside, from a window, on their balcony.
This is Mister, and he's a very sweet cat. He's a 14-year-old old man cat, and he loves to spend his time rolling around in the grass in the garden.
So actually, I saw it first happening in Toronto last year, and I thought that was just a great idea. I thought it would work super well in Montreal. People love to be outside in the summer.
So Lauren, there's a bunch of people watching you and your cat. What's that feeling like?
He doesn't get much socialization, so it's nice actually. Yeah, it's rare that you get to kind of show off your cat, so it feels pretty great.
I also hope it gets people more aware of the different cat rescues we have in the city and the needs of different rescues that we have. Hopefully we can even get more foster homes out of it, because I know a lot of rescues need foster homes.
This season, organizers say that they're going to be hosting a cat walking tour once a month, so Montrealers can have the perfect summer day. Kwabena Aduro, CBC News, Montreal.
Just enough for one take.
I'm not a cat person, but I love it for you and our producers, Chuck and Holly, who love the cats.
My favorite are the people who I see walking down my street with the cats in the strollers every so often.
I know, hilarious.
It's the best.
Have a wonderful night, even if you're going out with your cat. See you tomorrow.